Hello everyone, welcome to Carnivorous Plants Hub. Have you ever took a look at one of these plants and wondered, how in the world does something like this even exist? Every one of these little droplets look like morning dew, but they're actually tiny traps designed to catch insects. And honestly, they're one of the coolest plants you'll ever grow. The best part, they're also one of the easiest carnivorous plants to keep alive. But here's the catch. Every week I get comments from people saying things like, my sundew isn't sticky anymore. Why are the leaves turning brown? Why isn't mine growing like yours? The good news is those problems are almost always caused by just a few simple mistakes. So today I'm going to walk you through absolutely everything you need to know about growing Cape Sundews. We're going to cover water, lighting, soil, feeding, flowers, propagation, and go over some common problems. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to grow one of these from start to finish. Before we talk about care, I did want to talk a little bit about what I think makes Cape Sundew so special. Cape Sundews, or Drosera Capensis, come from South Africa. They naturally grow in nutrient-poor wetlands where the soil doesn't provide enough nutrients for most plants. So evolution came up with another solution. Instead of feeding them through their roots, it learned how to feed them through their leaves. Every leaf is covered with hundreds of tiny tentacles. Each one produces a sticky substance called mucilage. When an insect lands, it's stuck almost immediately. Then something really amazing happens. The surrounding tentacles slowly begin bending toward the insect, wrapping it up and increasing contact while the plant digests it. It's honestly one of my favorite things to watch. If you've never seen one catch an insect in a time lapse, it's incredible. Another reason I recommend Cape Sundew so often is because they're incredibly forgiving. They grow fast, they grow often, they make tons of babies, and one of the things that I love most about Cape Sundews is that they're tropical plants. That means that they don't require a winter dormancy like Venus flytraps or many other North American pitcher plants. If you can provide them with good light, pure water, and consistent care throughout the year, they'll simply keep growing and producing new leaves. Now, with that said, I've also found Cape Sundews to be surprisingly tough. Even though they don't need a dormancy period, they can often tolerate one. For example, these Cape Sundews that I'm showing you here spent the entire winter right alongside my Venus flytraps. The pot stayed right around 40 degrees Fahrenheit all winter long. The plants died back during the cold months, which is exactly what I expected, but once spring arrived and temperatures warmed back up, they came back stronger than ever. So if you accidentally expose your Cape Sundew to cool winter rest, don't panic. There's a good chance that they'll bounce right back. That said, if your goal is maximum growth, the best approach is simply to let them grow year-round. That's one of the reasons that I recommend Cape Sundews to beginners. They're incredibly forgiving, and you don't have to worry about planning a complicated dormancy period every winter. Now that you understand the plant a little better, let's jump into how to actually care for it. Make sure you stick around until the end because I'm going to be covering some of the most common problems that people run into. Let's start with the foundation of a healthy Cape Sundew, the soil and the pot. Cape Sundews don't want a rich, nutrient-dense soil like most houseplants do. In fact, regular potting soil is one of the quickest ways to kill them. Instead, they need a nutrient-free growing medium. The minerals and fertilizers found in standard potting mixes can slowly burn the roots over time, leading to poor growth and eventually killing the plant. Personally, I grow all my Cape Sundews in a mix of peat moss, perlite, and crushed glass. Before I mix everything together, I rinse each ingredient to help flush away any remaining minerals or dust. The peat moss holds moisture really well, while perlite and crushed glass create air pockets throughout the mix. That keeps the soil from becoming dense and muddy. It improves the drainage and gives the roots plenty of oxygen while still staying consistently moist. If you'd rather not source all those ingredients by yourself, I actually offer the same substrate over at carnivorousplantshub.com, so you can get the exact same mix that I use for all my own personal plants. Now let's talk about the pots. I recommend using plastic or resin planters because they're non-porous and won't release minerals into the growing medium over time. You'll hear a lot of debate about terracotta and clay pots. Some growers say that they're perfectly fine while others recommend avoiding them. Personally, I prefer to play it safe. I actually ran a little experiment one time where I filled a terracotta pot with pure water overnight. When I tested the water the next day, the TDS had increased from 0 to about 15 parts per million. Now, that's not a huge increase after just one night, but it made me wonder what would happen with months or even years of the plant sitting in the same pot. Since carnivorous plants are so sensitive to minerals, I'd rather eliminate that variable completely. As for pot size, Cape Sundews don't have a wide root system, but they do grow surprisingly deep. For mature plants, I recommend using a pot that's at least 5 inches deep. Giving the roots extra room encourages healthier growth and means you'll have to repot less often. If you're looking for an easy option, I also just put together a Cape Sundew repotting kit over at carnivorousplantshub.com. The kits are great, and they include the same tall plastic planters that I use for my carnivorous plants. They're available both in 5-inch and 7-inch sizes tall, along with enough of my substrate to completely fill the pot with always a little bit left over. My goal is to make repotting as simple as possible, especially for beginners. You don't have to figure out what ingredients to buy or how much soil you'll need. Everything is included and ready to go. If you'd like to check them out, I'll have links down in the description and the pinned comment. I'm also really excited to announce that I've started offering Cape Sundews from my own collection over at carnivorousplantshub.com. Right now my inventory is pretty limited, so if you've been thinking about adding one to your collection, I'd recommend checking out the website sooner rather than later, because I'm just not sure how long they'll stay in stock. All my Cape Sundews are shipped bare root to help ensure that they arrive safely. If you're picking one up, I also recommend grabbing one of the repotting kits. That way you'll have everything you need to get your sundew potted up as soon as it arrives. If you'd like to check them out, I'll have a link to everything down in the description and the pinned comment. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the next part of care. We're going to talk about watering your Cape Sundews. And when I say watering, I'm not just talking about how much water they need, it's also the type of water that you use that is just as important. So let's go ahead and start there. Just like soil, Cape Sundews need water that's free of minerals and nutrients. Unfortunately, that means that most tap water usually isn't a very good choice. For carnivorous plants, you want water that measures below 50 parts per million of total dissolved solids. You're going to hear parts per million referred to as ppm and total dissolved solids referred to as TDS. The easiest way to find out if your tap water is safe is to test it with what we call a TDS meter. I use one all the time, and honestly it's one of the most useful tools you can own if you're growing carnivorous plants. I also carry them over at carnivorousplantshub.com if you're interested. If your tap water measures over 50 parts per million, you'll want to use a different water source. The easiest option is distilled water. You can usually find it by the gallon at grocery stores and big box retailers like Walmart. Another option that I really like is the zero water pitcher. Unlike standard water filters like Brita, zero water filters are designed to remove virtually all the dissolved minerals, producing water that's ideal for carnivorous plants. As an added bonus, they even include a TDS meter, so you can test your water at any time. I'll have a link to the pitcher down in the description in the pinned comment if that's something that you're interested in. You can also use rainwater as long as it's relatively clean. If you're collecting from a roof, I still recommend testing it with a TDS meter just to be safe. Finally, if you have a larger collection, a reverse osmosis water system is another excellent option and is what many serious growers eventually switch to. So what happens if you use water that's too high in minerals? At first, you may notice your sundew is producing less dew. Growth may slow down and the tips of the leaves will start turning black. Over time, those minerals continue building up in the soil, damaging the roots until the plant eventually declines and dies. And that's why your water quality is so important. Now let's talk about how much water your Cape Sundew actually needs. Cape Sundews love wet feet. I grow all mine using the tray method, which simply means keeping the pot sitting in a shallow tray of water. This keeps the growing medium consistently moist and ensures the roots always have access to water. You can certainly water from the top if you'd like, but I find it much harder to keep the soil evenly moist that way. With the tray method, the plant takes up exactly as much water as it needs, and it's much more forgiving if you forget to water for a day. One thing you never want to do is to let the growing medium completely dry out. If the tray happens to run dry, try to refill it within a day. And during the hot summer weather, I recommend never letting the tray dry out at all. High temperatures cause the soil to dry much quicker, and keeping water available at all times will help prevent any unnecessary stress to the plant. Okay, I think that just about covers everything with watering. Now let's talk about lighting. This is probably the area where I see most people struggle the most. And in my opinion, it's the biggest reason Cape Sundew stopped producing those beautiful sticky droplets. I'm going to break this into two different sections, growing outdoors and growing indoors, because my recommendations are a little bit different for each. Let's start with growing outdoors. If your Cape Sundew isn't producing much dew and the leaves are a pale green instead of coloring up, the first thing that I'd look at is the amount of light that it's getting. Cape Sundews definitely enjoy sunshine, but here in North Idaho, I have found that they don't perform their best if they're baking in the hot afternoon sun all day long. I've had the best results giving them around 4 hours of morning sun and then protecting them from the hottest parts of the afternoon. You can do that with either a shade cloth or simply place them somewhere they'll receive bright and direct light for the rest of the day. I've never actually had a Cape Sundew die from too much sun, but I've had them look pretty rough. They stop producing as much dew, the leaf tips can begin to turn black, and they just don't look nearly as healthy. Let me show you an example. These sundews are growing in the same pot as my Venus flytraps. The flytraps absolutely love being in full sun all day long, but the sundews in the front of the pot get the same exposure and don't look nearly as good. Now if you look at the sundews growing toward the back, they're partially shaded by the flytraps during the hottest part of the day, and you can see the difference. They have noticeably better color, healthier leaves, and much better dew production. That little bit of afternoon protection makes a huge difference. Now let's talk about the lighting for growing them indoors. Personally, this is where I've had the most success. Trying to get the perfect amount of sunlight outdoors can sometimes be a balancing act, but indoors it's much easier to create consistent growing conditions with a quality grow light. The Cape Sundews you're looking at have been growing under a grow light for about a 12-hour photo period. They're healthy, colorful, and almost always covered in sticky dew. Compared to my outdoor plants, my indoor Cape Sundews are much more consistent throughout the growing season. One light that's really surprised me is this small halo-style ring light. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting much from it, but after growing these young Cape Sundews under one, I've actually been really impressed. It's done an excellent job for individual plants, and I've also had great success using them with Venus flytraps. I'll actually be carrying these in my shop here very soon because they perform so much better than I expected. I've also had excellent results with the Sansi grow lights. These Cape Sundews have been growing under a 24-watt Sansi grow bulb, and they've colored up beautifully while producing lots of dew. If you have a larger collection, I've also had great success using Barina bar-style grow lights. They provide plenty of coverage and have done an excellent job keeping my sundews healthy. I'll leave links to all the lights that I use down in the description and the pinned comment if you'd like to check them out. I did really quickly want to address windowsills because a lot of people want to grow their plants on a windowsill. And one question I get asked a lot is whether or not Cape Sundews can grow on a windowsill. The answer is yes, but only if you're getting enough direct sunlight. Since sunlight coming through a windowsill isn't nearly as intense as being outside, I recommend choosing your brightest window and aiming for at least 6 hours of direct sun each day. If your sundew is sitting on a windowsill and isn't producing much dew, chances are it's simply just not getting enough light. The nice thing is, you don't necessarily have to move it. You can always supplement it with a grow light and give it a few extra hours of light each day, and that often makes a huge difference. Okay, let's go ahead and address feeding and fertilizing. One of the great things about growing Cape Sundews outdoors is that they usually feed themselves. They'll catch all kinds of insects, flies, fungus gnats, ants, and even the occasional wasp that gets a little too curious. It's honestly pretty fun to watch. If you're growing your sundews indoors, you may need to give them a little bit of help. For example, I recently had a small fungus gnat outbreak in one of my grow tents. Most people would see that as a problem. My Cape Sundews saw it as an all-you-can-eat buffet. They absolutely cleaned up. So if you have fungus gnats, fruit flies, or the occasional housefly buzzing around, there's a good chance that your sundew will take care of them for you. But if your house is pretty bug-free, you'll probably want to feed it yourself every once in a while. Personally, my favorite food is dehydrated bloodworms. You just add a few drops of water to rehydrate them, roll a tiny piece into a ball, and gently place it onto one of the sticky leaves. You don't have to feed every leaf. Feeding just a couple of healthy leaves every 2 to 3 weeks is more than enough to keep your plant happy. I have some dehydrated bloodworms available in my shop if that's something that you wanted to give a try. You can also feed them small flies, fungus gnats, crushed fish fruit flakes, or other small insects. One thing I would avoid though is feeding them larger insects. The plant is often not strong enough, and the bug will escape before the leaf has time to fully wrap around them. Now let's talk about fertilizing. For years, people thought you should not fertilize carnivorous plants. Today, we know that when it's done correctly, fertilizing can actually make a huge difference. Personally, I use Max C fertilizer mixed with 1 teaspoon per gallon of water. I pour it in a fine mister and lightly spray my Cape Sundews. After I started using Max C, I noticed significant improvements in both the plant size and the dew production. It really made a noticeable difference in my collection. I actually have an entire video dedicated to fertilizing carnivorous plants where I explain exactly how I use Max C when I fertilize and some of the results that I've seen. If you want to learn more, I'll have that video linked down in the description and the pinned comment. And if you're interested in trying it yourself, I also carry Max C and a complete carnivorous plant fertilizer kits over at carnivorousplantshub.com. Okay, I also really quick wanted to touch on the flowers, seeds, and then propagation. There's a reason that Cape Sundews are often called the weeds of the carnivorous plant world. Once you have one, you usually end up with a whole lot more. Cape Sundews flower regularly, they're typically self-pollinating, and produce hundreds of tiny seeds. If you simply let the flower stalk mature and drop its seeds, there's a really good chance you'll start seeing baby sundews popping up all over the place. The flowers themselves are actually really pretty. They send up these tall flower stalks covered with small pink blooms. One thing I've noticed is that when my plants are growing in direct sunlight, the flowers usually open up in the morning and then close back up in the later afternoon. It's actually really kind of neat to watch. Now, one thing that I haven't personally spent much time doing is propagating Cape Sundews from leaf cuttings. I know it works, and a lot of growers have success with it, but honestly, I've never really had a reason to. These plants produce so many seeds on their own that propagation has never really been necessary for me. When I want more Cape Sundews, I usually just collect the seeds and then sow them myself. These little guys that you're looking at here all came from the seeds that I collected myself. Now, there's a couple of good reasons you might choose to cut the flower stalk off instead of letting it seed. First, producing flowers takes a lot of energy. If you remove the flower stalk early, the plant will usually put that energy back into producing larger and taller leaves instead. The second reason is Cape Sundews can spread everywhere, and I mean everywhere. At first, it's actually pretty exciting. You look down one day and think, awesome, free sundews. But after a while, you realize that you're constantly pulling Cape Sundews out of your Venus flytraps, your pitcher plants, and pretty much every other carnivorous plant that you own. Ask me how I know. Believe it or not, I never intentionally planted any Cape Sundews in this Venus flytrap pot. It started out as nothing but flytraps. The problem was, I kept it a little too close to a flowering Cape Sundew. The seeds blew over, landed in the pot, and now I've got Cape Sundews growing everywhere. So if you want some free plants, let those flowers mature and either collect the seeds or just let the wind blow them everywhere. Here are a few other examples of Venus flytraps that have some hitchhikers. I did a lot of repotting this year, so I don't have a ton right now, but I think you can kind of get the idea. The forkleaf sundews that you're seeing are called binata. They also spread like weeds. If you'd rather keep your collection a little more organized, cutting the flower stalk is a perfectly good option too. Just always remember this: Cape Sundews don't ask permission before moving into another pot. Eventually, they decide that every pot in your collection just simply belongs to them. Alright, so there you have it. Cape Sundews really are one of the most rewarding carnivorous plants you can grow. Give them pure water, lots of light, the right soil, and a little food every now and then, and they'll reward you with beautiful, sticky leaves, flowers, and more baby plants than you'll know what to do with. If this video helped you out, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me continue making videos like this and introducing more people to this incredible hobby. If you're looking for soil, fertilizers, bloodworms, or other carnivorous plant supplies, I'll have a link to everything I use down in the description below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I really hope to catch you in the next one. Bye!